What's up, and welcome to a very special episode of First Geek for 11. Much dare, mini devil, wow. I'm your host, Cameron Franklin. With me, as always, from West Coast, Best Coast, is Emma. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. I can't complain. Having a good week. How about you?
Oh, it's been good. We'll talk about why we're I guess technically starting mostly on time for what we used to do. Late for what we've been doing recently. We'll talk about it and what we've been up to.
You and I are the early birds.
Yeah.
When all of us are together, you and I are the early birds. And then Shanine.
Yeah, it doesn't help that Shanine has stuff literally up until right before. She's typically coming in hot because she's busy on Mondays. And so, but yeah, so we're actually starting late for how we've been doing things, but we'll talk about it. So before we get into that, you can find us as One Geek 411 around the internet. Check out our Discord server if you want to chat between shows. You can also find us on Twitch and YouTube, where you can watch live around 6:45 Mountain Time. If you're watching on YouTube, you can also like, comment, and subscribe. Then you can also check out that Redbubble store. Usually, Emma, when we do what we've been up to, I kick it to you. I'm going first today. And so the reason that we were late today and that I am coming in hot is I have been playing Blueprints, and right before we started, about an hour before we started, I started a run of Blueprints. The longest run I had done up to that point was about 30 minutes. An hour later, I have unlocked room 46, which is the main objective of the game. And so we're crazy hyped. I feel like I maybe at most understand about a third of what's going on in this game. So we have a whole lot more game to play. For people that don't know, Blueprints is a rogue-like puzzle game where you have inherited a mansion from your great uncle, and he has said that the mansion is yours if you can find the 46th room of this 45-room manor. And so there's a whole bunch of puzzles.
Diabolical.
Yes.
Such a diabolical move from your great uncle.
Yeah. Literally no chill.
Whatsoever.
None. And yeah, in traditional roguelike fashion, you have a resource. In this case, it's steps. So how many thresholds can you cross? And if you run out of steps, your day ends, or if you get stuck, you can call it a day. And then every day you get a whole new set of rooms and organizations and stuff like that. And so, literally right before I finally had the run that lined up for all of the things that I needed to do, and I thought I was going to hit a brick wall, and have to stop. And I just kept going and going until I figured out all the puzzles that got me through the final room. For context on this game, I have completed the main objective, and I think I have 0 trophies for this game.
That is wild.
Yeah, that's the kind of game this is. And so this is a crazy Cameron game. This is the type of game that's literally right up my alley. And yeah, I beat it on day 23, somewhere around 10 hours of play. One of the stats that keeps getting quoted is Jason Schreier, who had the game for review, had played 140 hours before the review period ended. And 130 of those hours were after he beat the game.
That is ridiculous in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah. So super fun game. It's free on PlayStation Plus Extra, or if you have Xbox Game Pass. So definitely recommend people at least give it a try. It is fantastic. As I've been talking to people at work about it. We've had a group of 4 or 5 of us that have been playing it, and it's hard to talk about because to not give spoilers, but
yeah.
But yeah, it's very fun. And then, other gaming stuff, I had some people over on Saturday, and we played Marvel Multiverse, concluded Act 1 of our campaign. So, or I guess issue 1, if we're using comic book lingo. And so, it was really fun. The players did really well. I might have almost TPK'd them like multiple times, but they completed the objective, and so
good.
They did good.
Good for them. I'm proud of them.
Yeah. Yeah, we now have like a little bit of downtime in world before they go and get into the next act. And so I'm excited to throw some stuff at them in this. And then they also ranked up, which is this system's equivalent of leveling up. And so this is their first time gaining new powers and new abilities since we started the game. And so I'm very excited for them to go and tackle stuff. And there's an item that becomes available at the end of like one of the final battles. And one of my characters is like a Knight of Arthur, like that's kind of his theme. And then I was like, if he picks this up, this will be perfect for him. And sure enough, like one of my other players was like, hey, go pick up the thing. And he was like, oh. And like, sure enough, like I had like some RP planned for when he was going to go do that in the hopes that he would be the one. And so very excited for that.
I love that for you guys so much.
Yeah. And then I finished Sunrise on the Reaping, the 5th Hunger Games book. Definitely recommend. I think last week I talked about probably giving a review. This is probably one of my favorite Hunger Games books. It's been a long time since I've read the original trilogy. But if not my number one, this is probably my number 2 behind the second one. And so
nice.
Definitely recommend if you're a Hunger Games fan. This one also has a whole lot more tie-ins to the other books, to where like the previous book 4 was Snow's origin story. And so because that takes place like 65 years before like Katniss, there's not a lot of connections that you can do. It's a lot more difficult to do that. And then, but this one lets you, taking place closer to the middle between the two, lets you have connections to people that would be alive in Katniss's time and have connections to people that were in the previous book. And so that was really cool. And then for my final thing, this can kind of be our crossover like we did last week, is we had episode 2 of The Last of Us, and I caught up on Doctor Who episodes 1 and 2 of this next season. Yeah, I had been meaning to do it, and I just like completely spaced last week. As we had discussed, completely forgot it had come out. Like didn't even like realize it was a thing. We'll of course, as we've referenced before, be doing a spoiler cast on most likely both of those. But
we are just
for
being
Doctor
fed all of the TV right now.
Yes, like we definitely are just like in the midst of like 3 TV shows that we'll want to do spoiler casts on. We also have Thunderbolts coming next month. We like July is crazy when it comes to doing like spoiler cast content.
It's a good time of year for things coming out, to say the least.
Yeah. So I'm really excited for us to do that. So to say high level, I love Virata Sithu, the new companion, Miss Chandra.
Fabulous.
And
Miss Chandra
I also, yes, I am really digging her mystery as well. That gets presented in the first episode. I am hoping people can go check out our spoiler cast. I'll do the thing. So hopefully future Cameron can find this. I was pretty disappointed in the Ruby Sunday reveal of what like the reveal of her mystery was. I am hoping this one is a lot more interesting because I like the setup of this one a lot more.
You and me both.
Yeah. And so I guess, I mean, it's not a spoiler to talk about because it's casting, but basically we have seen her play another character, and that is not like, it is not her. It's Bella, right?
Yeah. But it's confirmed essentially that they are related. I will.
Yeah, it's like her like descendant 3,000 years in the future who looks exactly like her.
I will put a little asterisk here. This is not just a scenario of someone being cast in a side role and then later being cast in a main role, which has happened multiple times on the show. Thinking directly with Peter Capaldi and Karen Gillan. So I will. That's my little asterisk. This is intentional that she was cast as a side character and now as a main character. So,
right. And that's to me what really interests me, of like, because it was Martha, right, as well.
Yes.
Yeah. She was cast as a different character, and then they just acknowledge like, character. Oh, my cousin works there.
Yeah.
As they when they like recast her as a companion, and so like this one is like actually canonical that they look alike, and it's presented as being significant, and so I'm very interested in what that's going to mean for the season. Episode 2 was really fun. Some cool tie-ins to episode the previous season, and so we'll talk more about that. But and then. Before we jump into Tilu thoughts, what did you think of the second episode of Doctor Who?
I loved it. I thought it was great. Very much it feels much more like a Doctor Who episode than a couple of like past seasons recently. So I'm really glad that it's even. I said this with the last season, and it's still the case. I don't love how short the seasons are. Because I want the classic like 12 to 14 episodes of just silly things like this second episode where you've essentially got a cartoon character that comes to life. That's not a spoiler, so I can say that. Like
that's in the promo.
And that's the plot. Like that's something you would expect to have happen in Doctor Who, and you wouldn't be surprised if that happened in Doctor Who, and it has happened. So, like, I would love to have longer seasons again with more of these just, like, silly things. But, you know, it is what it is for right now. And I love that the show is back on an upward trend, to say the least. At least in my humble opinion. It's still not where I, like, would want it to be, but you can't just make major jumps. My favorite thing is that we keep getting to see Miss Flood as a very much a side character. She's just the random neighbor, but she's very clearly not just a random neighbor. She's just she breaks the fourth wall constantly.
Yeah. And
I love it. And I'm excited to see what they do with that. So in general, I'm very happy with where the season is going so far, which is currently, if I recall correctly, a better percentage success rate than where we were at on episode 2 of last season. I think I didn't like the second episodes of last season or whatever, for whatever reason. But
let me go take a look.
If I saw the list of...
Yeah, I'm trying to find the episodes. There we go. So I remember there were some like really interesting ones, but the ones that I thought were interesting were definitely not the first two. Like kind of like looking back on them. Okay. Oh yeah, because Space Babies is episode 1, and then The Devil's Cord is episode 2.
Right. And I didn't like Space Babies a whole lot. It was fun and a good episode, but I didn't like it very much.
And I guess it depends on how you count, because you could also count The Church on Ruby Road. Like,
no,
that's like the special.
Holiday specials don't count for Doctor Who. They are their own standalone thing. Always have been, always will be. And I say that very matter-of-factly because it is the case. As someone who's been here for too many years. Almost over 15 years at this point. Yeah, 15 years roughly. 16? Like 2009. I've been here for way too long. Um, but yeah, that's my general thought.
And then for our other crossover, Last of Us episode 2. Obviously, we'll do Spoilercast later, as previously referenced, but crazy episode.
Emotional damage right there.
Yeah, a lot of emotional damage, emotional trauma, feeling the feelings. Shout out again, we said this last week, but shout out again to our The Last of Us HBO chat in our Discord, where people were coming through and like specifically chatting about the episode and like discussing spoilers and theories and likes and dislikes and all of that. So that was really cool.
Be nice to your actors.
Yes.
PSA, be nice to your actors.
Yeah. It's kind of we haven't done this general reminder in a long time, but you should be a good fan. Even if you dislike what a character does, that is not the same as the actor doing the thing or the writer doing the thing.
It's okay to disagree with story plot points. Yeah. But that doesn't allow you to go be mean to people.
Yeah. But yeah, I really liked this episode. I did share in chat. I do have... We'll see what happens, of course, like reserving judgment for the bigger story since we're only on episode 2. But like... there was a pretty major change versus the game that I am not a fan of. So we'll see if how that pans out later on. But I am... Go ahead.
Fully with you on that change. Yeah. I was sitting there during that whole chunk that you mentioned and was just like, this isn't right. This feels wrong. This is incorrect on many levels. But maybe there's a good reason for it and we just haven't been given that reason yet.
Yeah, I'm definitely there with you. I do also want to say, if you want to laugh, go read the TLU 2 user reviews on Metacritic. Like, oh boy. They're wild. One of my coworkers told me today about how like it's getting review bombed on Metacritic.
Of course it is.
At all. Zero surprised. He's also played the game. He was around for all of that. So like none of like we're both on the same page of like, wow, shocked, can't believe they would do such a thing.
Right.
But yeah, if you want to laugh, go read the unhinged takes in Metacritic. And again, not that I think the episode is a 10 out of 10, but like there's some unhinged takes. We might look at some of them in post-show chat.
Please.
But yeah, I'm very excited for this season. I, broadly speaking, other than the one change that I discussed in the Discord, have liked all of the changes to the source material that they've made. And I am very interested to see how they continue to build off of those changes. Like one of the big changes from the first season was that the mushrooms were a mycelium instead of spores. Mm-hmm. And so that's a radical change. But every time that's come back up, I've really liked how they've handled that difference. I think it's way more interesting.
I was very skeptical about that, even throughout the course of the first season. But like, it definitely grew on me with time. And now seeing what they're doing with that, even into this season, I'm like, okay, I can get on board with this. Like,
and so we'll see. I can't wait. I love our chats in Discord the next day. And again, shout out to people continuing to use the spoiler tags for all of that as well.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, that's what I've been up to. Emma, we've already had some crossover, but any other thoughts on those, or what else have you been up to?
Doctor Who and The Last of Us. The thing I loved about this second episode of The Last of Us that I don't think I mentioned in the Discord channel, or at least very briefly in passing, is they had several scenes that were literally sections of levels from the second game. Like the whole scene where Abby is getting chased and essentially attacked by all of the zombies that then leads her to meeting up with Joel is like her crawling through in between a building and a fence, and all of these zombies are pounding on the fence to get to her, and all of these other little sections that are literally moments that you have to play through in the game, which is why I'm saying it. And it is amazing and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I was sitting there watching it going, this is from the game. This is
Yeah.
literally like a moment that you play in the game. And it's a moment, it's a section that I hate
Yeah.
in the game every time I play it. It's the worst. So I understand how terrifying this is. And that was just like one of those things. I was like, I love this. Like they are constantly playing, like referring back to the game, and I think that's really great. Um, so that's like, I feel like that's something worth mentioning, even though there could be some minor spoilers in there, because it's like, for those of us who
Yeah.
have played the game and are watching this, it's like we see all of those moments. But if you've never played the game before, I think it's still cool to know that kind of thing of like,
Mm-hmm.
they have these full on action scenes that are taken directly from the game. And if I were watching an adaptation of a a TV show that was a game first that I had never played, I'd want to know that because that's cool. That's awesome. So yeah, that's that. Um, Other things I've been up to, related topic. I've been talking about this for a month now, but my Last of Us tattoo is finally done.
It looks so
Um,
good.
yeah, I finally took off the Sanoderm today, because it had been 4 days. It had been 4 days. Um, Proper photos are in the Discord, but I've got my Horizon robot and and the ferns and everything, and I love it. And now it's just the healing process, and she's so pretty, and I love her, and I've gotten so many compliments on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I'm like,
so
it looked good before and it looks
yeah,
even better now. Like,
yeah, yeah, I know. It looked pretty cool after the first session, even though it wasn't done yet, and now it looks even cooler, and I'm like, yeah, I love it. Um, and the moth reads so much better in person as a robot now, which is great, and I
mm-hmm.
love that. So yeah, that's something else that I did this week. It's just a matter of getting these bugs to not fly in my face anymore. Um, so yeah, that was something else I did this week, and it hurt, which is no surprise, but the worst of it is over now. So I get to just wash it every day and have a good time with it. Um, so yeah, I this week also finished reading A Court of Wings and Ruin after too many months, which is it's the third book. I just looked this up. It's the third book in the Akatar series. I have been reading it for too long now, and I finally forced myself to finish it. So I did, and that was good. I finished a book this year, in comparison to your 45 books, Cameron. My one book that's not book club related is a great
Hey,
success.
reading's reading. Like,
It still counts.
yeah.
Um, so I'm very proud of myself for that. Um, I'm still working on like two other books aside from book club books that I need to finish. But I'm making progress. It was 3 books and now it's down to 2 books. Um, so great progress. Proud of myself for that. Yay for finishing books. And then the last thing that I spent way too much time on this week for hobbies was playing more Slime Rancher 2. I have been playing nothing else except this game for like 2 weeks now. I have literally logged way too many hours in this game in the past 2 weeks. Anyone who knows me well enough knows that it is the mindless game that I play, or at least the first one was, when I don't feel like making decisions while playing video games. When I want to play decisions and I'm bored, I'll play Horizon Zero Dawn or Subnautica, um, because those are fun. But when I'm like, oh, I want to play a video game, but I don't want to make decisions and choices and things, I'll play Slime Rancher. Um, And then Slime Rancher 2 was on PlayStation 5. So now I've been playing that for 2 weeks nonstop. And it's a lot of fun. And I'm getting to the expanded, like, I've unlocked new parts of the map with a lot of work and effort. And I've been hunting down materials to then build transporters to get to those things, those places more easily. And it's a lot of fun. And I've just been growing my beets and my cherries and my whatever else to feed my slimes that I keep on my farm, and it's a lot of fun. And then I just sell their what is essentially their feces for money, because apparently that's how this game works and this universe works. But I'm just a manure farmer, and I'm okay with that because it's a fun, mindless game.
You do what you got to do there.
Yep. So that's been my week, and I'm having a good time doing it. So
nice. Love that. Let's go ahead and move over into our main topic for this week, and I guess only topic for this week, which is going to be our Daredevil Born Again Spoilercast. So, in case the title doesn't give it away, this is a Spoilercast. If you do not want to hear spoilers for Daredevil Born Again, mute the tab so that we get the view, but then come back later. We appreciate you hanging out with us for this beginning portion. As we caught up, there we go, not catched.
Yeah.
As we talked through what we have been up to, really appreciate you. But yeah, for this next portion, we will be doing spoilers. I am turning on the spoilers tab below us in the chat. And so these are spoilers. We are discussing the spoilers, not just for Daredevil Born Again, but also for broadly MCU comic books, all of that kind of stuff. I do also want to use this as an opportunity to plug. We'll plug it again next week or at the end of the show. But next week for our book club for April, we are reading Daredevil Born Again. And so,
we are.
And so that's our issues 219 and then 226 through 233 of Daredevil from the 1980s. I have not read that yet, so I will not be discussing any spoilers for that. But
I haven't either.
But yeah, rest of Marvel spoilers, like fully in effect, and stuff like that. And so, I did all that. Quick synopsis of the show. Daredevil Born Again begins several years after the events of Daredevil, the Netflix series, and a year after blind lawyer Matt Murdock stops his activities as the masked vigilante Daredevil. In the first season, Murdock continues his fight for justice as a lawyer while former crime boss Wilson Fisk is elected mayor of New York, putting the pair on a collision course. So, we do also know, as that references, that there is a second season in the works, set to launch March of next year, 2026. And then there's also, this will be relevant, there is a Punisher television special that is being worked on as well. And so that will presumably pick up relatively close to the ending of this series. And so, and then as another kind of production call out, this was originally going to be a much longer season. And then it was going to be disconnected much more heavily from the Netflix series. During some rewrites, they went back through and changed a whole bunch of it. And basically anything in this that connects to the original series was added in those rewrites, is the impression that we have. And so to the point that like Vanessa was in the original version, but it was a completely different actress playing her.
Was she in the Netflix series?
Yes.
I haven't watched the Netflix series in years.
Yeah.
So.
And so it was originally a completely different person. Then they recast the person from the Netflix series. Yeah. What's up?
Side question: Vanessa is the wife?
Yeah, Fisk's wife.
Who's Vanessa? Okay. Okay, never mind. I was thinking of the daughter of
Oh,
the Latino guy he defended, and I was like, I don't remember any young kids appearing in the original series. So, okay,
yeah.
cool. Same
Yeah,
page.
different person. And
Yeah.
so you're thinking of. I cannot find the person's name. I just find Hector is the guy that's White Tiger, but I cannot find the name of his niece. I'll look into that. But yeah. So this ended up being well, I think the original pitch for it ended up being like it was like in the teens number of episodes. We ended up getting 9 episodes. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into our thoughts on them. So, high level, as you come into this, what is your level of familiarity with Daredevil? And then, like, what is your level, or then what are your high level thoughts of the show?
Okay. Familiarity. I watched the Netflix show when it came out. Because it was the first like proper Netflix, not Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
like Marvel show to come out, right? That wasn't
I believe
like
so.
alternate completely. Okay. Because I watched it when it came out and was very excited for it, and it was fabulous. Loved it. Still love it, just haven't watched it in a long time. So definitely aware of the entire plot line. Daredevil and Jessica Jones are my two favorite of the Netflix bracket. Um, Jessica Jones for almost entirely casting decisions. That being David Tennant is involved. So
Mm-hmm.
I will say that. But whatever. Details, fancy schmancy stuff. So very familiar with Daredevil. As a general, wasn't until the Netflix show came out had vaguely heard the name in association with Marvel before, but beyond that, didn't really know much. High level, are we doing like 3-word review or just like general big picture stuff?
General big picture vibes,
Great,
like stuff like that.
great. I said this in the Discord, but I will say this as part of the high level thing. I get that it's complicated in terms of legal stuff, but I wish that the Daredevil shows played more directly into the actual Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because the events that have happened over the course of this season are so dramatic and like have such huge impacts on like essentially what is the rest of the universe and the characters that like I want to see some of these things play out with other characters getting involved. Um, because we see by the end of the series, like New York City is essentially existing in a martial state. Like Fisk has complete control over the city, and all of these insane things are happening.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I want the biggest thing that bothered me is both that like it's not connected enough that we don't have other heroes stepping in to try and prevent this kind of thing from happening. But at the same time, we have all of these little nods to other heroes, like the bobblehead figures, and Matt saying that he went to work on a court case with someone or whatever. Like, we have all of these nods to the main timeline of the MCU, but at the same time, we can't bring in a lot of stuff because of property issues, essentially. So it's like they're trying to walk this fine line when, in my opinion, they should just pick one side of the fence and walk on it. Like don't try to bring in references to other shows unless you can and movies unless you can fully commit to this show being part of the main timeline. Because it bugged me because it was like there's all of this wild stuff going on that would actually hugely impact everyone else in the MCU. But like in general, the entire plot line of this show was great and fabulous, and like I both loved it and hate it because we are experiencing stuff in the real world that is also terrifying, to put it simply. So it's like no one wants this kind of thing to happen, but we're gonna see what happens in a fictional universe. So, big picture, I thought it was pretty good, pretty solid. I would also not have finished the season had I not had a deadline of this episode today.
You're welcome.
So thank you. Worth it. 10 out of 10. I'd give the show like an 8 out of 10. So
How to say, I feel like I'm higher on this show, and it did not feel like you were describing a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, high level, I really enjoyed this season. To what you were discussing earlier, like I really like the Netflix Daredevil series, and also similar to you, really like Jessica Jones. Those are my two favorites of those. And I did look it up. Yes, Daredevil was the first one, and Jessica Jones came out later that year, and so we definitely, so those were the first two. And then we had Daredevil season 2 and Luke Cage the next year. So
yeah, makes sense.
So yeah, some really cool stuff. I really enjoyed this season, and I, without going too much into what we will be discussing, I think that my favorite parts of this are what this tried to do, but I do think there are a lot of places where this made swings and those swings did not land. That does not mean that like the individual episode-ness of it was bad, but like this definitely was a place for me that I felt a lot of the struggle that people have towards villains in the MCU, where like all the villains just feel super disposable and like copy and paste, and like we'll talk about like Muse in specific later on, but like I really like, I don't know Muse, but like supposed to be one of the more major like villains, and like supposed to actually like have a really interesting power set, and then we don't get any of that. And so, but like at the same time, the stuff that they did with Muse was really interesting. I mean,
yeah,
psychopath, but like but like
don't do that in real
the
life,
stuff
kids.
that yeah, but like the actual like acting and the scariness of it was done super well. It just felt
Definitely
like I
would have loved to see more of Muse.
Yeah, exactly.
Throughout the show.
And so I definitely feel that as like a bit of the struggle here. I heard this in some of the other reviews, and I definitely agree that like, and this is kind of even echoing like what you were saying. I wish this either focused on the OG Daredevil crew or focused on these new side characters. Like getting Deborah Ann Wall as Karen is fantastic. Love her. But like it feels like she's barely in the show. And so like I think they should either have cast her more or like maybe just have her be a tease like of stuff that's going on, or like we'll talk about side characters in specific in a future question, but like that was definitely something that I feel was muddy. But again, from an individual episode perspective, I don't necessarily have those problems, but I definitely felt some of the struggle there with the overarching plot, or like the overarching MCU-ness of it. Similar to you, like, I mean, this is the classic comic conundrum of like, where are insert a whole bunch of characters that are here that we know are in the area. And so some of that we do get answers to, of like, but I mean, New York is such an important part of the MCU. Like,
huge. Like,
Yeah.
it's the epicenter of the MCU,
Right.
if you will.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of that I am struggling with, of like, why are we not getting more something?
Yeah.
Especially as we get to the ending of the season. We'll talk more about that later on. But like, um, yeah. Again, so I guess the way to say it is like, from an episode by episode perspective, I really liked this show. Overarching plot wise, did not like it or have a lot of
Have issues.
questions or
Some,
yeah,
some issues and questions and things. Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, this is another
I
show.
guess my other, I will do another high level thing is it definitely, the season as a whole definitely feels like a season that is meant to set up the second season.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
like it definitely feels like the second season is going to be the where it's at, and they just needed to get this first season out there to make it make the second season make sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Let's go into our next question. So this is the third time in like official MCU that we have both seen Charlie Cox as Daredevil and have seen Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. In for Charlie Cox, we of course had him in Spider-Man, then She-Hulk, and then this. And then for Vincent, we had him in Hawkeye, Echo, in this. And
okay, so I haven't seen Hawkeye or Echo, so that
so he's brand new
like,
for
wait,
you.
Wait,
yeah.
Where was he outside of Daredevil?
Yeah. So, what do you think of these two as our main leads, and kind of out of this also? Like, what do you think about the central conflict between them in this season?
Yeah, I mean, in general, like, I personally feel like they have been the perfect casting for those characters from the get-go. Like, whoever the casting director was made the perfect choice, and like they just haven't budged from those sense. So both actors are fabulous in the roles. Overall, I mean, I love seeing Charlie question his existence and just like what he's doing with his life throughout, because he goes through this whole character arc in the first Daredevil shows of like he exists already as Daredevil, and then he has to like come back down to earth a little bit as a lawyer who's just starting out and is essentially destroying his relationships with his friends and family or partners or whoever. And now we see him go in the opposite direction of he's not Daredevil at all. He's just a lawyer, but he's still destroying his relationships and friendships, and it's not going well at all. And so he's just sitting there questioning things of like, what am I doing with my life?
Why are we even here?
Why are we even here? And of course, his answer to how to fix this problem is to go back to being Daredevil. And it's like, yeah, okay, that worked out for you the first time. But you know what? This is still going to be a problem for you, except now the risk is bigger, because that risk is Mr. Kingpin over here, who literally runs the city and has a huge vendetta against you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm excited to see where that storyline goes, because it's just a guy who's digging his own grave, even if it means, like in the process, it means saving people from things. I wish, I mean, this might just be a me thing, but I felt like Vincent Kingpin, whatever you want to call him, his character arc, even if you can call it, was much more flat throughout the show. Like, it was, they kept on saying him, other characters, that he's changed his ways and like he's no longer this bad guy that people make him out to be. He just felt like the bad guy the whole time. Like, even if he said that he'd given up being a um, criminal ring runner person, he was still had this thing out against vigilantes from the beginning, which immediately makes everyone hate the guy. To say so, it's like I don't like you from the beginning. Like, I want to feel bad for you coming into this because that's what the show wants me to feel. But instead, it's like, no, you're just a bad guy from the start because you're just you say you've changed, but you haven't shown me that you've changed. So I wish. I mean, that's not so much on the actor. Um, I think that's more on just how the season set up his story and everything. But I wish there was more ups and downs for him. Throughout the show.
Yeah, kind of going off that, it felt like they were presenting it as, is he going to be the bad guy? And us and everyone in the world is like, yes. Like, in world is an MMCU. Like, obviously he's the villain. But then they were like, but is he the villain? It's like, yes, obviously.
Yes.
But is he?
The answer's always going to be yes.
And then at the end, they're like, weren't you surprised he was the villain? It's like, no, we weren't. No. And so kind of to your point, I wish we would have seen more of like his like policies in the sense of like, what is he like actually doing that's helping people besides getting one pothole filled?
Yeah.
Like, I would have really liked to have seen that.
To kids' choir performances.
Yes.
Like, you know?
A+ joke though. Like that like he goes to a school and they sing we built this city, and then he goes to I think a Latvian heritage like thing, and they sing it in Latvian,
which is
like
absolutely amazing.
Well done. Perfect joke. No notes.
Like, don't change that moment at all. That was amazing. But I wanted more things like that, where he was forced to sit through things that he really didn't want to sit through, but he made himself sit through them. Because then I would have been like, okay, I want to be on this guy's side now.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen more of like make the heel turn like more of a surprise, in the sense of like show or show us a lot of stuff of like we'll get to like White Tiger when we talk side characters, but like if his vendetta is against vigilantes, and clearly we know he hates most vigilantes because they're mean to him because he's the bad guy, like they should have shown us vigilantes abusing their power, because then, or like show us like the public getting behind like Kingpin because of that, like but even like the main like masked vigilante that's doing bad stuff is Muse, who Daredevil is also trying to stop.
Yeah.
And so like I think if we would have had more like, not necessarily even villains, but like if we would have had more pretentious vigilantes that were like abusing their power, even if it was little things like expecting free stuff from people or like like stuff like that, I think that would have helped a lot with us as viewers to get behind the this is to benefit him, but it is like legitimately helping. But instead it was just, all of this is clearly just to benefit him, and it was like they tried to pull the rug out from under us, but we all stepped off of it because we knew it was a trap. Like
this is a trap. No, really? You don't say. Even if they had one more episode or whatever to fill in and have another, subplot vigilante character, pull almost like a Purple Man, as I still like to call him, of like he's got these quote unquote low level powers of like, I mean, with Purple Man, it's you can ask someone to or tell someone to do something and they will do it for you no matter what, like basically going around and using your powers for both good and bad, like having some other additional vigilante type doing things like that, and then having it caught on camera and like being published to Twitter or go live or whatever, like
Mm-hmm.
just having some other thing in there so that we can really side with the guy, because especially not a lot of people and new viewers are going to go back and rewatch the entirety of the original Daredevil show to then be like go directly into this and go like, yeah, I sympathize with Kingpin. Like, Daredevil did mess up your business venture. Um, and even if you do that, most people aren't going to sympathize with him anyway, because
Right.
he's still the bad guy. He kind of deserved it. But like, I think that it all would have really helped play into his development a bit more.
Yeah, I completely agree. For me, I think I've made this joke on the podcast. I'll make it again here. Vincent's fingers and hands are the best actor in Hollywood. Like, I don't know where he went to hand acting school, but like, that man can communicate any emotion with just how he like does stuff with his hands. And like, I don't know. I saw something else recently of another actor where they looked like they were trying to do that same type of thing. I'm like, oh honey, like you don't hold a candle to Vincent.
No.
And yeah, he just does such a great job playing that character. And I really liked him as like the mayor of New York. Again, my biggest complaint is I just wish it wasn't obvious that he was the villain.
Yeah.
But I really liked his performances.
Even if it was, like, at least give us a reason to care.
Yeah. Make him more villainy. Like, let's just go full corruption from the beginning. Like, it just it feels like they're trying to convince us that he's not corrupt, and we all know he is. And so, and then for Charlie, man, I feel like this season and like Charlie's performances across this character really like hammers home that there's a different version of Cameron that feels the same way about Daredevil that I do about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, and like, I don't know what that would have to have been different, but like so much of what's Charlie does so well is the thing that I love about Spider-Man, which is he has to balance the personal life with the crime fighting life. And the with great power must also come great responsibility type thing of like Daredevil dealing with like, I want to set this down. I don't want to be this vigilante anymore, but being constantly stuck in the fact that like, oh, you're corrupt cops that are here to beat up a witness. Sure would be a shame if you got wrecked by the blind guy. Like, just like that kind of stuff. And I really like that conflict that exists within that character. And like, of course, like Charlie plays it so well. And I have some Daredevil comics on my TBR at the library that I think I'm gonna like move up the queue to go and read some of them, because like it's just been so good. And like I said, I really liked the way that they handled the Daredevil story of that constant, when is he going to mask up? When is he going to go back to being Daredevil, and trying to make that feel needed. Like, I feel that was really well done.
Yep.
And I just wish we kind of got that same thing on the Kingpin side.
Yeah. One of my, I don't know why you talking about that made me just think of this, but one of my favorite production stories from the Netflix series was that Charlie got the blind part of the character so ingrained into his brain that after they were done filming and like done with production, he would go back to whatever he was doing, and he would have people remind him to stop acting blind, and like actually he had to like remind himself to make eye contact with people and like actually look at people and things, because he would be sitting there just like staring at one fixed point off in space, because he got so used to that as part of the character of Daredevil and Matt Murdock, that I'm just like it wasn't even intentional by any means. It was just Like that was a part of the character that he took away with him as a habit. That like honestly, yeah, that would be disorienting for someone is not blind. But also, like, good on you, Charlie. Like, you definitely love this character and love playing him. So you'll get kudos.
Yeah. Next question. Thoughts on the action from this series? Favorite action scene? I'll take the low-hanging fruit. You can join me on this. The bar fight at the very beginning of the series.
Obviously.
Like, fantastic oneer. Like, this is a very cool take on the classic Daredevil hallway fight.
Yeah.
And getting to see the new version of it that doesn't feel like insanely over the top, in the sense of like it's just them fighting in this one building, but now they're going upstairs, they're maneuvering around like other people. Like, that was super cool. I really liked that take on it without it feeling like he's fighting 1,000 people now in this hallway. I hope you're ready. So I really liked that. I think it was a very also insanely well shot, which also is a big factor there. But the actual action of it too, I thought was really interesting. I mean, there's a reason that
kind of thing
Bullseye is such a classic. Yeah, like Bullseye is such a classic Daredevil villain because their powers are like conflict in such a cool way, and I really liked getting to see like Bullseye back, and getting to kind of kick off with this. I thought was a really cool thing, especially when, relatively speaking, from a season, there's not a lot of action for a good number of the episodes.
Yeah, that definitely was my favorite as well, because it's just synonymous with Daredevil on the screen, is to have these really strong like one shot fight scenes, where they go absolutely insane, just with everything about how they pull it off. I do wish that they had one more of those at the end of the show or of the season.
Very much agree.
They had the one at the beginning, that is essentially the reason that Matt decides to put down the helmet, so to speak, put down the mask, so to speak, because spoilers, Foggy dies. Oh no, your hero's best friend is targeted by your arch nemesis wife for interfering with business deals, by being a good lawyer. Wild how that happens. But I would have then loved to have seen another one at the end when he's picked the mask back up, to like really emphasize that like he is indeed back in this game, to really add on a nice little button to seal the deal with that, because he spent the entire season struggling with whether or not he was gonna use his extraordinary skills beyond being a good lawyer, to actually help this city that is in not a good place. So I would have loved to have seen one more of those towards the end, but it is low-hanging fruit, and I do love that scene at the beginning, because I've loved those scenes with Daredevil since the first show came out. So yeah.
And to kind of build off what you were talking about, action scene at the end, like I really liked the Daredevil Punisher scene, like in his apartment, and I really liked the idea of like him taking a bullet to save Fisk from being assassinated. I like both of those as separate things, but him having to do basically his final fight injured just kind of felt like it does take away a bit of that. And again, I really liked the penthouse fight. I think it was very cool, but just kind of having to see him have to not be at 100% for that final fight. I did hear a good call out with that of like, the previous versions of Daredevil would have also been trying to stop Punisher from killing people. And like the fact that we don't really get that is kind of a letdown. Like that, like he's kind of like, well, I'm not going to kill him, but Punisher's over here, and he's like, whatever, you do your own thing.
Yeah.
Versus
the
other
ex-Marine with a chip on his shoulder, you know.
Yeah. And so I would like to have seen like a full powered Daredevil actually trying to both end the fight and stop Punisher from killing people. I think that would have been really interesting. But next questions, these kind of tie together, so I'm going to go ahead and read them both, and then we can either address them separately or address them individually. And so first off, first question is like side characters. Favorite side characters. What do you think of the side characters as a whole? And then that ties into the question of like, what did you think of the B plots, mainly centering around the White Tiger trial, the corrupt cops, and Muse? And before we go into talking about that, I meant to mention this at the top of the show, but I did want to also say, in case people didn't know, Kamar, who plays White Tiger, passed away in real life in 2023. And so people probably would have seen the dedications to him that were in the episodes. And so I just want to say rest in peace. He passed away from cancer in December of 2023.
That's so sad.
So, yeah.
Okay, now I feel like my thoughts and opinions, I should just change all of them because...
Yeah. And so I believe it has been confirmed that there were not changes to the script when he passed away. That this was still the intention, was that he was going to have been killed. So that was not them trying to write him out after, or knowing that he was sick or like anything like that. That was the intention of the script, but wanted to take a moment to recognize another one of the people that makes the art, and so.
Cool. Yeah, that's so sad. Rest in peace. He was good in the role. I wish they had kind of trimmed down on the B plots and focused on like one or two instead of having multiple. I would have really liked to have seen, like, you could have done the White Tiger trial and the corrupt cops plot lines together throughout the entire season, and like really gotten into those more, because that would have fed really well into the whole Fisk character stuff a lot more, I feel. Or even, you know, basically picking like corrupt cops with any of these other, the White Tiger, the Punisher, Muse. Like, if they had pulled the corrupt cops and then like picked one of the other subplots to really like lean into the corrupt cop plot versus those, I feel like it would have left a bigger emphasis on those subplots instead of doing like 4 or 5 little things every episode, which is just my own little thing. Again, as we've said from the beginning, this season was going to be in the teens in terms of number of episodes, and then it got trimmed down to 9, so I'm sure there was a lot more space to play with all of those that then just got thrown out the window. So they did what they could with the space that they had, but I would have liked to have seen it either more focused in on, like, I mean, really the corrupt cops, because that plays into Fisk as the character of Fisk, and then like really like 2 vigilante plot lines rather than the 3 that they had. 1 to 2 vigilante plot lines, because they were all like fascinating. I want to see more of the Muse character. I wanted to know a bit more about the White Tiger, you know, character and his trial. Punisher we only really got to see for what, 2 episodes?
Yeah,
roughly.
in one of them, they're just talking. It's a fantastic dramatic scene. Like, probably one of the best dramatic scenes in the series.
Absolutely.
It is just a dramatic scene there as well.
So it was just definitely one of those, like, they're all like interesting B plots, but it was harder to really have them stick in my mind and think about them when they didn't have enough space to really explore them fully. Mm-hmm. So that was more of that, like, because they just didn't have enough time to do everything that they had hoped to do, which is valid, but also just don't do as much. Like, take out a plot.
Yeah, and I did a little bit more digging while you were talking. So the original pitch was 18 episodes, and now it's 2 9-episode seasons.
Interesting.
And so that's just something to keep in mind there as well. Kind of building off what you said, I really wish we had focused harder on the White Tiger plot. Mm-hmm. Of, like, I would have liked for us to have gotten to see more. And, like, specifically after it gets revealed in trial that he is White Tiger, I think that would have been the prime opportunity for us to have seen, okay, well, here are some people that aren't happy with vigilante stuff that he did. And, like, actually have flashbacks, like, show us him doing things that he thinks is helping, but isn't. Like, I think that would have been a very cool way of, like, while of course we're going to still side with him because he's, like, the person that we're defending in court. Like, I definitely wish that they would have, like, toned in a bit more on that side of things. I love the fact that we can talk about a character not having their magic amulet and we're all just on board with it. Like, of course, he didn't even have his magic amulet. Like, he clearly wasn't being a vigilante. I just think that's hilarious.
That's definitely the thing that gives him his powers.
Right.
And
like, obviously.
Being a really good martial artist, you know?
Yeah. Like, so I loved that. I'm very excited. I did look it up. Angela is the niece. And so I'm very excited as they're clearly setting her up to become White Tiger later. I'm very interested to see whether they're going to continue to go with her. And then other B plots, I already talked a bit about Muse, but, like, I wish that, again, if we're thinking, like, big plots, I wish we'd have focused on White Tiger. Like, our A plot is the Fisk Mayor stuff, and then Charlie Cox, or then the Daredevil, does he want to be Daredevil plots, and how those intertwine. Then I wish our B plots were the corrupt cops, because that ties in directly with Fisk, as we see.
Yep.
And then the White Tiger, give us more stuff that Charlie could have solved as Daredevil, but isn't doing that. I think that would have been really cool.
Because that then does also play into his
exactly, because that then ties into his A plot. Like, and then have this, like, simmering plot of Muse. Like, I wish we would have, like, seen like Muse doing more stuff. Yes, because, like, we see his, like, graffiti throughout the season before we actually meet Muse, but, like, we don't see him committing crimes. Like, I think that would have been interesting, is, like, let's show him evading the police. Let's show him, like, we see him killing the girls outside the club because they're, like, fans and they walk up to him. Like, clearly poor judgment of, like, he's clearly a psycho.
Just in general.
But show us more stuff like that. Like, I think that would have been very interesting to, like, have this being this, like, like, it's like a pot that you turned on the water for. It hasn't boiled, but, like, it's heating up. Show us that. So then you can have a big Muse thing in the second season, the second half. That way we get more of that character. Whereas for this, it kind of felt like it's, oh yeah, there's Muse. He's bad. Look, he killed this one person, tried to kill Angela. Look at how bad he is. This super high body count that they told us but didn't show us. Like,
yeah.
I mean, we see people hanging, like bodies hanging. So we do see, like, but we don't see him actually, like, kill people.
Muse could have gotten the treatment that Miss Flood is getting in Doctor Who right now. Granted, the Miss Flood character is getting, like, 2 seasons worth of this so far, but, like, he could have really been sprinkled throughout every episode until later in the season of like,
Yeah.
who's this person?
Exactly.
Why are you showing us this random person in a dark alleyway spray painting a mural? Like, what does that got to do with anything? And then 2 episodes later, you see him take down these 2 young adult women, and you're like, oh, this is a problem. What are we going to do about it? And then you don't learn what we're going to do about it until the next episode. Like, he's there. Make him exist throughout the entire thing, even if it's just in one 30-second moment.
Yeah. Basically exactly what I wanted. It was like, just show us more, but like have it be, instead of a bunch of big new stuff, show us a bunch of like 2 to 3 minute teases of what he's doing, of like that kind of stuff. Let's see, other side character wise, we got Heather Glenn, who is Matt's love interest and is a therapist who is doing couples therapy for Fisk and Vanessa.
Don't like her. Not a girl's girl. Don't like her.
Extremely well played. Like,
well played.
But like,
well done.
Yeah.
Don't like her.
I also pretty fully could have gone with her not being in the show.
Yeah.
Like, I would not have, and that's kind of how I feel. I'm kind of going to like what I was saying earlier with a lot of the newer side characters, except for the White Tiger stuff. Like, don't really like him, or like her. Didn't really like BB Orich, who's the reporter. Like, didn't really like a lot of Fisk's other lackeys either, with the exception of Buck.
Like, there was a lot of other random like D plots happening with those characters too, which didn't need to happen.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of that stuff that I definitely could have gone without when it comes to those side characters. And I wish that some of that would have been trimmed. That way we could have like focused a bit more on like these main storylines. Like, I hope that we get more from those characters, like, because I mean, they're still around obviously for the next season, but like, I really hope they build them up a bit more. A lot of them just felt a little one-dimensional, which like is not really where you want when they're your like secondary like characters. And so I just wish, and like even going to, what's her name? I saw it earlier, and then Kristen McDuffie, who is his partner at the law firm. Like,
oh yeah,
what type of law are we doing? Like, I have so many questions about what's going on at this firm.
It's just like, rather unestablished.
Yeah, and again, well played. Shout out to the person who played her. I should have said earlier. It's Nikki M. James. And then for Heather Glenn, it's Margarita Leviva. And so shout out, like, again, I think they both did great. And I mean, even the person that plays the Fisk's number 2, like, man baby guy.
Like the communications director person, or the second-hand guy?
The second-hand guy, Daniel Blake.
The tall, thin,
the other one.
Pole of a guy.
Yeah.
The short, squat guy who was working with
the tall guy is Buck, who I liked. Yeah, Daniel Blake is the squattier guy, and it's just like, dude, like, have some relevance that isn't just your proximity to Fisk. Yeah. Like,
you're adding nothing to this.
Yeah. And
aside from being the reason for propaganda, which, we can all just kind of fill in our imaginations. If you didn't exist, we would all just shrug and go, okay, this thing is going along with this. There must be some communications guy in the background doing something.
Right.
But
there's nothing that he did that we could not have had Buck do, or that we could not have had Sheila Rivera, who's the actual campaign director. Like, there's nothing that Blake did that the other two could have not done. And so I really wish they would have, again, well played, Michael Gandolfini. And then Sheila is played by Sabrina Guevara. But again, well played. Like, not a complaint about him as a character, but like, I really don't think he should be there. like, or him as an actor. Him as a character, I don't think should exist.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And then, I guess last thing here for side characters, I loved the stuff with Punisher. I do not like Punisher as a lead. He just like isn't a favorite of mine, but I really like when you get Punisher like up against someone with like that is like Matt, who is struggling with his moral compass, and like having Punisher there as either the match that pushes them, that like starts the fire and then things go downhill for them, or is the person that helps them like fortify in what they believe. Love that as a character.
Yep.
Could have definitely dealt with more Punisher here.
Absolutely. He's definitely great as that character that comes in to really set the lead on a certain path.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on side characters or B plots?
Yes. One. That goes back to the point that you made earlier. I either wanted a lot of Karen, Karen, or like just the bit at the start. Preferably a good chunk throughout, but like we all know her from the Netflix series, and that relationship that she has with Murdoch, whether it's just as friends or, you know, something else, whatever, is so unique because she knows everything about him, down to the fact that he's Daredevil. So like, I would have wanted either like nothing beyond just that first scene, aside from like a phone call or two, something to send Punisher on his way to Daredevil or whatever, or like have her sprinkled throughout the show more, even if it is just, you know, she's chatting on the phone with Matt for whatever reason, like he called her for some lawyer opinions and thoughts and questions. Not just having her show back up in the last episode and go, oh yeah, storage unit with boxes full of case files. It's like, okay, a little bit of a MacGuffin there, but what have you. So that's like my one final thought.
Speaking of MacGuffin, for our next question, what did you think of the finale of this season? We kind of get like three major
that other
arcs.
Random plot.
Yeah. So let's talk MacGuffin. So we get the reveal that the reason Foggy was killed, which at least it was plot relevant. This isn't just like them killing the main character's friend or girlfriend. The reason that he killed is because he's in a case against the Vanessa, and he figures out that the port is a free port, which makes it so no laws can matter there, which conveniently this free port is right next to the busiest city in the United States, and no one other than him and Vanessa have figured this out.
You know what we call that? A classic example of a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Maybe not a classic example of a MacGuffin, but like maybe a B-point example of a MacGuffin.
It is very MacGuffin adjacent, at least. And so we get that plot. We also get the, as referenced earlier, we do have a scene where Matt takes a bullet to protect Fisk from Poindexter, Bullseye, and then Fisk then sends Buck to kill Matt in the hospital. I liked the tension of this scene. I thought this was really cool.
Needed more of it.
Yeah, and then I like that we then get Matt suit like coming back home, and Punisher is there waiting for him because Karen has called him to protect him. Love that. Um,
Amazing.
and
Great
we get a
work.
suit up
Good
fight,
job, Karen.
like, and then yeah, and then we eventually have Punisher get captured, and then we have Matt and Karen attempt to go fight, and then suddenly Fisk's corrupt cops is like hundreds of people. Like it was like maybe 10, and then all of a sudden he has like hundreds of cops defending this Freeport. Like, okay,
Also,
sure.
mildly related, did you watch the post-credit scenes after the finale?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that one guy, not very smart.
Not
he
well
got what was
trained.
coming for him.
Yeah.
Not well trained at all. Like, it's just a bunch of rookies off the street who voted for Fisk. Like,
yeah. And then post credit scene, Punisher gets captured because he kind of goes on a suicide mission, but because corrupt cops are a fan of Punisher, like
they're keeping him in a cage.
Yeah, they don't want to kill him. They also we have some other vigilantes or people that Fisk doesn't like in cages that I guess you can just do if you're mayor. Like, okay,
if you're Mayor Fisk specifically.
Yeah. And then I love the ending scene of Frank like bonding with his guard, and then he just demolishes him in the most obvious way possible.
Yeah, like, and everything. Like, you shake my hand. Well, bam. Like, dude, if a guy who's chained up in a cage offers to shake your hand, you don't shake his hand. Like, just don't do that.
Yeah. So what did you think about these like plot finale stuff, things like that?
Again, definitely a couple of MacGuffin adjacent events at best, or worst, whatever you want to call it, that happened. MacGuffins exist in the same category that the Wilhelm scream exists in for me. Which, if you don't know what that is, look it up and you'll hear it and you'll go, oh yeah, like I've heard that too many times.
Can't escape.
Where it's, once you know what it is, you'll never not find it funny. But it's essentially either really good because it's funny, or it just doesn't work. And I think it, like, the finale suffers a little bit from that, but at the same time, like, it is Marvel. You do expect some level of that kind of shenanigan going into a superhero show, movie, animation, whatever, regardless of how dark and dramatic it is. Like, at the end of the day, it's still a, comic book adaptation of a superhero storyline. So there's going to be some MacGuffins to make things work out. So they're forgivable to an extent. Because, of course, Bullseye is going to break out of prison dressed as a prison guard and, like, travel to the fancy ball that's happening for the mayor, and sneak in and try to
only
off
take
the guy.
one shot.
Yeah, because why not? Like, someone needs to make an attempt on the guy's life in order for the story to progress. It might as well be this guy who's in prison. But I mean, overall, the finale makes sense. Like, it is going to be what it is. Plus, there is another season coming out, as has been mentioned several times. So it's very clearly, like, it's not the end of the show. So there is stuff we're leading up to. And I'm curious to see where it goes. Yeah. But also, again, either give us more Karen or none at all. I love Karen. I want some more good girl power in Daredevil. Big fan of that. Plus, I just love what's the actor's name? I'm
Deborah
blanking.
Ann Woll.
Yeah, I just love her in real life. She's great. She's a huge nerd.
Yep. One of us.
So, yeah, she's one of us. Hello, we love you. If you ever hear this, which I doubt, but yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah. Definitely my complaints center on this being set up as season 1. Like, I feel like if this was just the first half of the season and they like marketed it that way, these like my issues would not be as big. But the fact that this is marketed as season 1 and then we were having season 2, as mentioned before, I'm pretty disappointed that we didn't get full power Daredevil for something at the end of this season. And then I'm also sad that we didn't get a Fisk and Daredevil, not necessarily like literal face off, but verbal sparring, something like. I wish that we would have seen them interact more in this finale, versus just Fisk sending Buck to kill Matt. Like, and it's like that was a big disappointment for me there. And then, while I really like the speech at the end from Matt of the idea of like we need a city without fear, I was also very disappointed when he opens the bar doors and it's just a bunch of like people.
Randos. Yeah.
Like, which fits the theme of like everyone needs to stand up against corruption. But like
even the random cop lady.
Yes.
Who
like,
up until that last chunk, I was like, oh yeah, she's on Fisk's side.
Yeah. But like the fact that he's anti-vigilante, he's enforced this like draconian laws for New York against vigilantes. And like, you're going to really tell me that Matt can't assemble anyone that's an actual super-powered person? Like, no Luke Cage, no Jessica Jones. I even would have settled for Iron Fist. Like, but like,
I mean,
you're going to really tell me that he just has some randos? Like, like it's established that Karen has multiple vigilantes on speed dial at this point. Like, she's just calling up Punisher. Like, like, where are like the rest of the New York, like not even like A-tier heroes of like
Hell's Kitchen crew?
Yeah, like where are the Defenders? Like, we get references to Spider-Man, but of course we don't see him because, as you said at the beginning, rights are complicated. Like, but like there's so many other, like, where are the sorcerers that hang out in New York? Like I get that we might not see Wong or Doctor Strange, but we know there's other sorcerers.
They're
like, where are they at?
Trainee people, even. Because it would be safe to assume that Doctor Strange is training people who have shown skills.
And Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme. Like, an extremely important role that would have apprentices so that he could be training them. On top of the fact that you can fast travel between the world with the sling rings. Like,
literally.
Like, so I definitely would have, I wish we would have seen some of that. And that's definitely my biggest complaint, was kind of ending on this cool like build up moment, and then it's just kind of whoever. Like, if that scene would have just ended with the back of Spider-Man's head, I would have been on board. But like the fact that it doesn't and just kind of again ends with randos was a big letdown for me. Well, again, if this was advertised as the first half of season 1, I think I would have different complaints there. But the fact that this is advertised as the finale really like downs me on that end. But we'll see. And then any other thoughts on finale stuff? Okay. But we're going long because someone was late. So
Cameron.
So last question. We already have talked about this a little bit. What are your thoughts on the references to other MCU properties? Did you have a favorite like Easter egg or reference or anything like that?
I mean, I liked the Funko Pop reference, um, because I'm from Everett, where they're headquartered and things, so it made me laugh, and I appreciated it. Um,
Mhm.
and overall, references and Easter eggs are fun. I mean, I still, granted, have my gripes with this show in particular, because it's like Matt shows up in multiple other shows that are much more main timeline, whatever. Either walk on one side of the fence or the other. Don't waddle between. Um,
Mhm.
which I'm gonna complain about, like, forever, no matter what happens. Because it is such a weird copyright thing. However you want to talk about it, whatever. Um, but the references themselves were fun, and like, I just wish they didn't feel like they were put in there for the scenario that Daredevil and Kingpin, much more Kingpin and
Mhm.
copyright, is able to go full MCU. Like, I wish they didn't feel like a preemptive measure for whenever right stuff gets sorted out and they can take this major event that happened and just sort of insert it into the MCU and go, oh yeah, that was an alternate timeline, and Matt and Kingpin just sort of get
Mhm.
transported here, and it's all good and safe now.
Yeah.
New York City is no longer being run by Mayor Kingpin, Mayor Fisk, whatever. Um, so, yeah, that's just what they felt like to me, but they were still fun.
Yep. Um, Again, broadly speaking, I agree. I wish that we had payoff for more of the Easter eggs. I did
Yeah,
really like seeing the swordsman show back up, just because he's like
yeah,
such a side character in Hawkeye,
yeah.
and it was
Again,
really
didn't watch
fun.
that, but
Yeah, it was just very fun seeing Jack Donahue. Oh no, Jack Donahue is 30 Rock. Um, Jack DeQuincy, played by Tony Dalton,
oh, was he,
who is
he? He
like,
was the police, the head of the police,
no,
right?
he was the wealthy guy that Fisk was like shaking down, and then we see him in the prisons at the end, like in the cages, and so
Okay.
yeah, he's Kate Bishop's like not stepdad because I don't think they were married, but
Okay.
like her mom, Kate's mom, is dating him in Hawkeye. I
Mm-hmm.
think is how it is, and so we got like him as kind of a side character there, and then kind of getting to see him show back up. I thought was really fun. Um,
Yeah.
and then as a huge Miss Marvel fan, seeing her dad show up at the bank made me so happy.
Yeah.
Um, I really wish we would have gotten more of him with that. Like, again, a payoff later in the season or something of like, besides just, yeah, look, I really love my daughter. Oh, and I happen to have this Funko Pop of Miss Marvel, a character from Jersey who's like obviously my daughter because I'm not good at hiding any of this. Like,
Yeah. I'm
um,
terrible at this whole secret identity thing.
yeah. Um, and so, yeah, I would have loved to have seen more of him again, mostly because I just love the Khan family, and I'm hoping that we get another payoff for that. Um, I believe from stuff that I've seen, it's established like they established in the show that Miss Marvel's in California, and apparently that lines up with the Kate Bishop lore that we know about with her being in California at this part in the timeline. So
Mm-hmm.
presumably they could be young Avengering while they're over there.
Ooh, fun.
Um, and so, but yeah, I thought that was really cool and a fun or both of those were fun references. But, but yeah, I think that is where we're going to end it tonight. If you have been hanging out with us, please let us know what were your highs and lows of the series. Hit us up with what you thought about these questions. And then, as I said at the top of the show, next week we will be doing our Daredevil Born Again's book club on the comics. I got mine right over here. And so
hey, we got the same version.
Nice.
Mine's over
so
there.
yes, that's issues 219 and then 226 through 233. And like I said, that'll be next week, 428. So come on back and hang out with us for that. And then as a reminder, you can find us as OneGeek411 around the internet. Join our Discord server. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Check out our Redbubble store. Watch live on Twitch and YouTube. And then find the VODs over on YouTube. And then you can find us at our personal social media, minus Humar Whittle.
Mine is I am not prepared with an I in the prepared.
And it's been a great week.
Do some good.
Stand up to injustice.